What do you think you've learned most about yourself as CEO of a publicly traded company? There's our YouTube short. Hey everyone, welcome to our latest TDR Psychedelic Exclusives, and we welcome in an old name back to the podcast. Haven't seen him in a while. Todd Shapiro, CEO of Red Light Holland, which trades under the ticker symbol TRIP on the CSE. Good to see you. It's been, I don't know, maybe a year or so?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Chad. You just forgot about me. Just like, where's Todd going? You don't miss
I
me at
get
all. You have all
rest.
these big boat tours. I don't get the invites, but no, I appreciate you having me, man. I really do.
How's things been for the most part? I know it's probably busy, but where do we even begin from the last conversation? But as far as growth of the industry, I know it's been tough from the capital markets perspective, but a lot of positive momentum that I'm hearing. Insurance codes being approved by the American Medical Association, stuff happening in Australia the last few months with, all systems go for MDMA and psilocybin. It really paves what I think is going to be a turning point for this industry within the next year.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're very optimistic still, and it is tough. I'm quite candidly really burnt out. It's been 3 years publicly traded on May 28th, so we're approaching the 3-year anniversary of Red Light Holland going public.
Yeah.
We came out of the gates with just under 4 million cash. We last reported 19.7 million cash, plus a very robust business. And I like to say to people, if you liked us then, and of course do your financial due diligence, but how can you not like us now? And especially now that 3 years have passed, that means it's every little bit inch closer to more regulations in emerging markets opening up. But it's a long process, Shad. So we just sit there patiently awaiting, advocating, but also growing a business that is focused on revenues now, near-term revenues, and a path to profitability.
So are you seeing that, as far as like near-term profitability revenues? You reported 19.7 million in cash, and you said if you don't like us before, you should like us now. So maybe elaborate on that a little bit and what that means exactly.
Well, we were a concept, right? And God bless every investor who came in and believed in that concept. But we delivered on a lot of what we said we would do. We talked about starting a truffle brand in the Netherlands. We started a farm in the Netherlands that grows magic truffles. We bought a distribution company that's doing a significant source of revenue, and that's helping us grow other parts of the business. And that's a company called SR Wholesale. We recently have bought 2 smart shops that are essentially like dispensaries in the Netherlands, one in Utrecht, one in Oost, that we are now converting and renovating to becoming these mushroom and more shops. And that's to get into this mushroom mindset. And the reason why I say the mushroom mindset, Shad, that's what we are. We're one big everything mushroom company. And one of the things we can do now, whether it's through our farm in AEM in New Brunswick or our Happy Caps farm out of New Brunswick, our partners in Pickering and Carleton mushroom farms, and the Mr. Cap brand with Wiz Khalifa that we plan on launching in the summer. These are mushrooms we can sell without the regulatory hurdles, without the headaches, with markets that are endless. And this is what we're excited by.
You've been notorious at bringing over some big profile names within the company, Russell Peters being one. You have advisors like Bruce Linton. Wiz Khalifa is probably perhaps maybe the biggest name of all. And like you said, launching a mushroom brand, Mr. Caps, like later this summer. So walk me through how that partnership was put together and more importantly, how it advances the company.
Yeah, thanks for the question. And listen, I love celebrity. I'm not going to lie. And I think we'd all be lying if we said we didn't. People are buying prime drinks and lining up and reselling them after because the Pauls are involved with them. People are shopping at Gucci because Billie Eilish represents them. I mean, this does not end. Or if you like Jared Leto, he's doing it as well for Gucci. But I mean, celebrity and products continuously sell. And this is a part of my brand build. I've always said from day one, a brand is more valuable than a commodity. If you can be the top brand and if you can have the influencers and celebrities involved who A, are affordable, but B, have a reach in the hundreds of millions of people, well, those are who you want to align with. And on top of it, Chad, what's so great is you want authentic, genuine ambassadors. Wiz Khalifa loves magic mushrooms. Does he maybe overindulge at times? Perhaps. But is he learning sort of the art of, and what we're showing in the science now, of benefits and benefits
Right.
for focus and anxiety and what we're learning through all the different studies that are coming out now. Yes. So will there be a careful, responsible message eventually with psychedelics and the Mr. Caps brand? Yeah, that's the goal. In the meantime, let's go sell some oyster, shiitake, lion's mane. People love the home grow kits, and let's get people into all the other benefits of just these exotic and functional mushrooms as well.
My business partner, Anthony Verrill, was telling me this week that while attending Florida State, he hired Wiz Khalifa. It was his first performance of his career. So mention that to Wiz. I'm sure he'll know who Anthony is. But needless to say, I think Wiz has advanced in life over those last 15 years. But congrats basically off of that. Let's dive into your latest news, considering the recent report published by you in collaboration with NUBU Pharmaceuticals on psilocybin microdosing, and it's aimed to educate medical doctors in Australia. And wow, Australia is advancing quick. So what is the current state of microdosing as a legitimate form, I guess, of mental health treatment? And what evidence do you think exists to support its use?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and cite every study here, but you're going to learn more and more and more. And we have done a microdosing protocol with some science that has backed it that you can get on the Red Light Holland website. And that's done by our entire science team. And that is a report that we've shared with our friends at NUBU Pharmaceuticals in Australia. We want to be careful. Some are saying, and I've even seen some other companies have talked about exactly how the regulations are going to work as of July 1st in Australia. The truth is, we still have more things to learn. I don't want to go down a road of saying we know everything. I do want to say that we have people with their ear on the ground that will tell us everything when they know it. And that if people are reporting it back to us, I've likely seen that, but there's always a twist of the truth. So we're just making sure we get all our ducks in a row, and I hate using all these corny phrases, but that's the truth. And our partners in NUBU, they're very well connected, not only just in Australia, but in New Zealand as well. They have a vast network of doctors. They've done this with cannabis. And what I love about them is they don't want to be pumpy. They don't want to just sort of allow us to put out a press release that says, as of July 1, we're doing this. Because if they're not entirely sure, then we're not entirely sure, and we don't want to mislead investors. The one thing we can tell you, we're very optimistic about what is going to happen in Australia, but still more things to learn.
So you were saying that they are a very well-connected pharmaceutical company. Maybe elaborate a little bit more on like who they are, and again, I guess how that partnership was put together.
Yeah, I mean, they've helped bring cannabis products and other types of pharmaceutical products to the Australian market through doctors. And that's really as simple as it is. Doctors are looking for alternative forms of medication. They have to go through their proper COAs, but perhaps Australia hasn't yet allowed them for medical use. And it's about being progressive, because at the end of the day, they have a government who is progressive and wants to help people with a mental health crisis. And we're learning more and more about whether it's psychedelics, whether it's psilocybin, MDMA, whatever it may be, that can help. And I think Australia is open-minded. Again, though, clear-cut regulations aren't purely defined. I know for a fact that doctors still want to make sure they understand it over there before they prescribe it. And we still have a bit of work to do on our end to be able to prescribe what we make from our magic truffles being tested at Seacrest Labs, going through their proper COAs to be able to see if and when we can ever get product there that Health Canada will allow us to ship it out. But our partners at Seacrest Labs can get export licenses through their controlled substances and dealers license. And, ideally, that's where we'd like to see it go.
What's the competitive landscape look like for microdosing in Australia? Do you know yet? Is it tough to say? Is it too early?
It's too early, man. It's really interesting. And I'm going to relate this to Oregon. I'm going to relate this to any other emerging market. And why Red Light Holland is most proud of ourselves is we don't want to make the same mistakes, and I'm just going to say it, that cannabis companies made. When emerging markets came out, every cannabis company jumped in and pretended, or at least thought, that they understood the market. I mean, Shad, a lot of my day now is spent listening to CEO podcasts, and it's very easy to quote Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger and all these guys. But when you listen to how they invest over at Berkshire Hathaway, it's learning about the failures first. It's not learning about the successes. Find out what companies fail and then don't repeat those patterns.
That's a good
And
point.
if people were to look at what Red Light is doing, we are not repeating patterns of failed cannabis companies. We're not just throwing money at markets because they're allowing us to. We're waiting to see how those markets work out for others. And by the way, if one comes up with a pretty good business, well, maybe we'll mirror that and then crush them because we have more money to market it. Or maybe we'll look to one that failed, but they did a couple of things wrong that then we've learned with our team on the ground and make sure we don't make that same mistake. I'm a patient investor. I have probably the most amount of shares in this company. In fact, I know I do. And this isn't about what is happening tomorrow. I say this passionately, Shad, and sorry, I'm always long-winded on your show, but
It's all good.
I have a 7-year-old boy, and if at 11 years from now or 12 years from now, my son can walk into a legal magic mushroom dispensary, and him and his buddy buy microdosing pills in Canada or Australia or wherever they travel to, he can look at his buddy and say, my dad and his company are the reason why we're allowed to do this, or at least part of a bigger story that is allowed to do this. I'm in this for the long haul. I'm in this to try and change this world in a positive way. It's a tough world. Trust me, I've gone through my own tough bouts over the last few months. I even have my little wisdom truffle here trying to keep me calm in this interview, which I used to do so well, where I get my heart rate reading and just kind of calm me down and focus.
What's it say, buddy? What's it say?
Yeah,
you can't just bring that up.
It's a little high right now. But I am having fun
you
as
out,
well.
brother? Am I putting you on the spot?
Yeah, well, it's just you're so handsome. So I'm a little
please.
there's like a first date with you again.
Oh, here we go. Well, you talked about the legal environment for psychedelic truffles. It's right now, let's face it, this isn't any short-term play. It's in a gray area with a lot of respects depending on countries, jurisdictions. So where would you say right now is the primary focus for the company? Meaning, like, is it a matter of concentrating on the sale of functional mushrooms and mushroom homegrown kits in the North American market?
Yeah, that's it. I mean,
Yeah.
we have a good business in the Netherlands. We're carefully weighing it. The whole theme in every single meeting that we have with our team, and there's about 45 people that work for Red Light Holland right now, and we're managing a lot of people.
45, wow.
A lot of different personalities and a lot of different languages and a lot of different countries and states. It's quite interesting. But the theme for us is path to profitability. And
Right.
in the functional mushroom space, we can see that a lot clearer than we can necessarily see it in the psychedelic space. And for us, we're always going to be psychedelic focused, psychedelic sexy. That is the end goal. I mean, on this vision of ours, free the magic is the top of the pyramid. And we want to free the magic for everyone because it is the silliest of concepts to think that we've criminalized nature in the first place. So that is our goal. And we want to do it with careful audits, careful legal opinions, paying our taxes, and knowing where the product comes from, which you're seeing in a lot of legal shops that people aren't doing those things. I applaud them for being progressive, meaning these illegal dispensaries opening up all over Canada. I get a little angered and perturbed that, here we are fighting the good fight, and yet, they get away with it. But maybe that'll open up doors and force regulations. But back to path to profitability, exotic mushrooms are a really good business. And if there are investors out there who are having difficulty maybe understanding Red Light's message because it's shifted a little bit, just think that we're an everything mushroom company. And if you know how to grow a strain or a substrate and you can do it into cordyceps or you can do it in lion's mane or shiitake, most likely those farmers will know how to do it in psilocybin, whether it's a Tampanensis or a Mexicana. And if we know the distribution routes to get it to retail shops, most likely we'll know the retail routes to get it to other retail shops. If we know how to produce home grow kits, much like cannabis, where every household is allowed up to 4 household plants to grow at home, we would then know how to distribute home grow kits one day if that was psilocybin too. It's all a long-term vision in this everything mushroom, and the exotic mushroom business is very fun actually, Shad. Like, we are learning a lot. We're building an absolutely massive farm out in Peterborough. I'll have much more updates on that soon. We just have, this is a state-of-the-art facility. I mean, this isn't a small little, hey, we're building an addition to the home. This is 70,000 square foot of pure ingenious build in terms of engineering, in terms of best production ability, and in terms of, keeping smells down and all that stuff, ventilation, everything. So engineers back and forth. We'll learn a lot more about that farm and submissions to the township soon, but we're right on path. It's just a little bit slower, but we're very confident by the future.
So, forward-thinking statements, like what is this landscape? I know this is a long ways away, but one day, let's say you do believe that they will legalize this. How does that whole framework look? Like, meaning, like, do we see? Lost my train of thought, but like, how do people basically? You're going to see dispensaries, as far as competition, having a distribution license, growing facility, all that sort of stuff. Maybe educate my viewers as to what you're building infrastructure wise and how you might have that first mover advantage versus, say, competition, and how, I guess, the overall concept will eventually work.
Yeah, and forward-looking statements. I don't know how it's going to roll out, man. I have no clue.
Yeah.
What I do know is in the Netherlands, which is my guinea pig study, I can have a farm, and we are farming to expertise. We are shooting that product over to Seacrest Labs through psilocybin import licenses, and we're learning through them and getting certificates of analysis, which is proving out our growing ability down in the Netherlands. So that's great for us, knowing we're growing a great product. It doesn't
Right.
have pesticides. It doesn't have poop in it, all this kind of stuff. It's a
Yeah.
clean product. The other thing, we have a distribution company. So we have relationships with over 200 smart shops in the Netherlands. So I take my expertise from my GM, an amazing guy down there named Peter. Peter one day could say, hey, if you ever want a distribution company in Canada or in the United States, this is exactly how it should be run, because we've been doing this for 3 years now and we're doing it successfully.
So proof of
I have 2
concept.
retail shops. I don't love the retail game. It's not easy. There's turnover. You got to train staff. You got to make sure they're educated. You got to get the right products in there. But we're learning from our retail shops. We're renovating them to make them this new, again, mushroom and more, kind of that wellness world concept. We have changed the name. I think that's the first that I've said on your show, by the way. Mushroom and mushroom will be split, like mushroom, like a mushroom and more.
Gotcha.
And we love that. And we're going to learn from that. So maybe one day, if there are legal dispensaries allowed in Canada, then we open up mushroom and mores here in Canada or the States. Maybe we just open up exotic mushroom shops. That's like an everything mushroom with the, functional mushroom pills to, these coffees you're seeing, teas, you're seeing gummies. Maybe we just do a whole mushroom shop. So a lot of it is learned knowledge without spending a lot of capital, and then apply the best of what we've learned to future successes. And if some things fail, then we won't apply it any further. Well, it'll be a sunk cost. It's part of doing business. But, obviously we're focusing on that path to profitability and the ones that win out.
So we've heard some of Khalifa's stories, and how he's pivoted towards this industry. I'd be curious to know, like, how is the friendship, relationship, how is that all put together? Like, who reached out to who, and how did that all unfold?
Yeah, it's a great, great question. I met Wiz through a team of his that was working on Khalifa Kush. The Khalifa Kush guys, it sounds like very self-servant here, but they really liked my vibe, is what
Yeah.
they said. They said, we'd love to introduce you to the Wiz. Let's see if he likes your vibe. I made sure I had wisdom to calm me down before I took that call, even though I was used to talking to many celebrities in my day from a past life. But still, Wiz Khalifa is quite significant, and I know I wanted
Yeah.
to get into the mushroom bed with him. And we just chilled on a Zoom call. Loved it. It took many, many months to get a deal done. I mean, like 9 months. It was a very intensive deal. But here we are today developing now Mr. Caps. The launch is aimed for somewhere around, early July, mid-July, and we'll have more details on that soon too. The Mr. Cap brand, we think, is like an absolute home run with like these fun little characters, each that represent different mushrooms. They're going to each tell you about the benefits of those mushrooms, and they're going to make mushrooms desirable to an audience that maybe hasn't thought to eat mushrooms before. And Wiz is going to be a big part of that launch contractually as well. He has to do X amount of posts per month. He has to do X amount of talks about it. Like, he's very engaged in growing it.
Yeah.
And we are going to utilize his social media to make sure we do that on top of a dedicated marketing budget as well.
Guy knows how to perform. I was down at the Bazinga conference in Miami, and my brother called me up, and I don't like country music, like, at all. And he's like up in Fort Lauderdale at Tortuga. So I get an Uber, and I come down the A1A, and here I am basically cruising down the beach, and who's performing on stage was Wiz, and that crowd was like, our crowd, I should say, was probably the loudest it was all weekend. And there were some big name acts there, but congrats on obviously acquiring him. I'm sure that's going to do a lot branding wise. I do have to
Thank
ask,
you. By the way, there probably was a big cloud as well around him. So
yeah, there definitely was. Country music concerts, though, I will say, man, everybody is happy. like happy. It's like one of the nicest, most positive, pleasant things you'll experience. So maybe it's something I'm learning about country music, but still a tough sell for me. But I gotta ask, like Netherlands, North America, Australia, how difficult is it to run different business segments globally, like knowing you have to depend on the rules of different countries? I'm sure that's no easy task.
Yeah, I don't know if people want to like hear about the struggles personally of a CEO when you take a company public, but everything is difficult, Chad.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not, you know me, you've known me for a very long time.
Yeah.
I don't know how to bullshit, right? Like, so,
I
when I
can
tell you
relate,
I go
bud. I
through
can relate. This feels a lot different
yeah,
than the radio days. Like it is a grind, right?
it's a grind. And when your intentions and when your goals are so big, and that's maybe part of my problem, like my goals are to change the world and leave a legacy. Like that's my goal. I'm not in this just to make a couple of bucks. Like I'm in
I
this to
know.
leave a legacy. So when you want to kind of have things perfect, and you want to perfect that science of everything you're doing, personally, I've learned to micromanage less, have trust in my team more, trust in my legal teams back to regulations,
Yeah.
trust in my science team for R&D and quality control. I have a great trust in my farmers, by the way. The farmers are my favorite people. They're the most salt of the earth, tangible, hardworking crew you're ever going to meet, whether they're in the Netherlands or here just outside of Toronto.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I want to get eyes on the company continually. I want to market the brand, and I want to do my very best to remain level-headed, but also everyone on my team knows that we're a mental health company first. And at any point, and I mean, this is me included, if anyone needs a day off, a few days off, like if we need people to breathe a little bit, to take time to think, to take time to
Yeah.
recuperate, so we're driving the best productivity possible. I think that job as a leader is one that I've kind of embraced over the last few years and tried to lead. Used to be now, immediate, kind of like a small cap investor. And when you eventually get in the mind of a long-term investor and a long-term business builder, like our chairman, Brad Lamb, he's built a massively successful development and real estate business
Yeah.
over decades. And I look at his wealth right now. I mean, it's crazy, but
Yeah. People aren't
he
familiar. Like
helps with it.
if
Yeah,
people aren't familiar that
it's
are
about
not
a
from the
vision.
GT. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go
Sorry,
ahead.
I was cutting off. No, I was
I was
just
gonna.
saying, so to ask about all the regulations in emerging markets, the key to all of this is patience and productivity. And
Yeah.
again, that should lead to a path to profitability. And that's, again, we feel very grounded at this moment and very excited for what the future holds in store.
What do you think you've learned most about yourself as CEO of a publicly traded company? There's our YouTube short.
Oh man, you're gonna make me like cry here. It's really interesting, right? And again, I cite all these different things I've learned now from CEO podcasts, whether your Estee Lauder, where my wife works at. I listen to her build up to I mentioned Warren Buffett earlier and Elon Musk and stuff. And at the end of it, like, how do you figure out a family work-life balance? I have two small
Yeah.
children. They are without a doubt the most important things to me of all time ever, and at times I regret not necessarily feeling as present with them, even though I have been present. I've been on a phone, I've been on a call, I've been just staring aimlessly at them playing, but not really engaged in what they were doing because I was so driven about the business. And things take time. So as a publicly traded CEO, and the fact that we last reported 19.7 million cash and our burn is really reasonable in terms of a long run rate, and our revenues, and you can look at our last reporting, have gone up quarter by quarter.
Yeah.
So as long as we continue this, you realize we are in a great point of strength right now. We can't change the world overnight. So why am I not going to be present with my kids at night? Because I can't change anything then at that moment. So what I've learned is be present when you can with family. Don't lose out on the things that matter. And it doesn't take away from what your intentions are to grow a business and best represent shareholders to hopefully increase their value.
Yeah. I will say we definitely live in a time where people want instant gratification. And some of the clips I was watching, like, I don't know if you follow Jordan Peterson, but it's just striving towards that goal is what the true, prized possession is like in life. And then once you achieve that goal and you're doing nothing, that's not going to bring you to happiness. It's just about enjoying the journey. Easier said than done because it has its peaks and valleys. But, when you look back at those remember whens of where you were 3 years ago to where you are now, I'm sure there's a number of things where you can look back and say, holy cow, I can't believe what I didn't know, what I know now, right?
And this journey, especially since COVID, like, has been different. I mean, everyone's health seems a little bit off, whether it's long COVID or vax injuries. We're learning a lot about that. I
Yeah.
think people's energy levels are a little bit down, and their mental health is a little bit off from what it was post pre-COVID. It is a very intriguing, interesting world, and at the end of it, it sounds so corny, man, but I really hope people are always thinking about others while they're thinking about themselves, because we sometimes lose sight of the fact that others have going through health problems, or others are going through
Yeah.
mental health problems, or others are seeing people within their own homes die and stuff. So enjoy the journey. You never know when it's going to end tomorrow. So you better enjoy it today. Put your best foot forward. Don't go over forward, because that's where you're going to lose your head. And live in the moment as much as possible. And that's what Wisdom Truffle represents, is just taking a moment and breathing. And that's what we try to represent. And I'm trying to practice it. I speak it a lot. I'm still a bit of a maniac, but man, and by the way, this is cathartic for me. I love to talk in microphones and everything. So it allows me just to share some opinions and beyond the
Yeah.
company stuff. So I hope that everyone's just doing their best for themselves and looking out for others.
Yeah, step in the right direction for the overall industry. But I think what most importantly to investors, or for that matter, just the well-being, mental health for people, they want to see progression, anything in life. And I appreciate the update. I know it's been a while. We need to have these conversations more. Maybe we need to have these mental health podcasts. I think you and I would actually do very well with this sort of thing.
I would love to. And I actually want to apologize to my own investors. I was setting up this thing called Red Light Radio. I don't know if you can see it there. And I'm trying to get it off the ground. I'm trying to launch it. I had a guy who was going to help produce it. It didn't work out for me. Producers are tough to find, huh?
Very
Shad?
tough to find.
And I
Very
needed a
tough.
good person who could help book guests, make sure we edited it properly, get it out on the same systems. And between my busy schedule and a ton of travel, and I'm going back to the Netherlands in July, I'm trying to be there for the launch of our Mushroom and More shops, which I'm aiming to open up then. I'm going to get it going, though, because I do love this stuff. And yeah, Shad, we can chat any day, because it's more than just life. And I'm serious about the vax stuff and the long COVID stuff. I think a lot of people are going through they're feeling different. And I
Yeah.
want to explore that a little bit amongst
Yeah.
everyone, because these are the conversations I'm having at dinner tables. And it's not about anti-vax, and it's not about COVID was a biochemical warfare thing. It's just about how are we feeling different since that
People
time?
are
And how do we do our best to get back to feeling normal?
mentally fatigued, that's for sure. And it's
Right?
just it doesn't, and then I don't want to get it like doom and gloom, because I do think there are opportunities. But when I'm sitting in an elevator in downtown Toronto last week and I see tech companies laying off 3,300 people because of automation, AI, it's a little surreal. But look, the godfather of AI, the big developer from Google, he's talking about the dangers, Elon Musk. So I think there's just a lot of, when you see this in the news, there's a lot of impending doom. I think that there's going to be other tech companies that are actually going to have to come to the forefront to determine what's real news and what's just, AI automated. But it just, when you look at this as a nutshell, the world is becoming more complicated. It's just so busy,
I called up my
right?
mother last night, and I love talking to my mom still. She's like, it just grounds me a little bit.
Yeah,
And I said to her, we're having this talk about AI, and we're having this talk about what our children look like in the future. And you have one little one, right, Shad?
yeah, she's 10.
Or
Yeah,
no?
yeah,
A
a little
10, yeah.
girl.
And, and I think about their future with AI, with credit scores coming in for sure. They're coming in with carbon footprint, designs. Like, are you
I
going to live in
know.
basically, wall-less jails that only give you a certain place to go, depending on the money you make and depending on the friends you keep and the way you smile in certain public situations and don't complain about a government authority or something. There is a lot coming down the pipeline. And part of
I
the
know.
talks my mom was like, if I had known this 10 years ago, I might not have brought children into this world. That's how scared I am by it.
Hmm.
With that being said, and I'll relate this back to the business, I do that well. I sell myself well and the company well. Magic mushrooms can open up people's minds, and they can also allow you to live in the moment very, very well. And if you're with nature, a lot of the shit, man, that we've lived our lives around, cell phones and screens and social medias and all this stuff, it's making people miserable. And I think connection
I
is the
know.
key. That's why I said look out for others earlier. And look out for your kids too. Make sure they're enjoying life and doing the things we used to do: ride bikes, run around, play
I
in a
know.
yard. Get electrons from the planet, let it go into their feet, and give them energy. Go hug a tree today. It sounds silly, like not to necessarily because you want to save the environment. Everyone should want to save the environment, but I mean, hug a tree. It's good for you. It actually is good for your health.
Dude, I
So,
can honestly say
um,
this. I'll share something personal. If your mom and dad are around, then like give them a hug and tell them you love them. But I lost my father. What was it? 8 weeks ago. He passed away
oh
of
shit.
dementia. But one of the great things is that you talk about screens and raising a family and all this stuff, and it's been probably 10 years since like my mom, my brother, sister have been so busy going left, right, and center. And I can't explain like as to how close that we become. And a lot of the times that happens when you lose a close one within a family member because it really identifies who you are as a person. So I think in a lot of ways when COVID did hit, it was almost like let's press pause and just appreciate the moment. And I think we got lost with the whole vaccine mandate about who was vaccinated and who wasn't. But in the end, in the grand scheme of things, does any of this stuff matter? And I can sit here and say, watching my father pass away on the side of the bed, none of this stuff matters. Just be grateful and, like you said, appreciate the moment, right?
Yeah, man, and I'm so sorry to hear that. First off, I'm super fortunate. My dad's 80 and my mom's 77, and I don't know what I would do without them. I think of my kids, and like it's as badly as I drive hard at this business. I'm recognizing that making sure I'm part of this family, saving a family, being a part
Yeah.
of a family will be the most important support tools and structures they'll ever have. And you're right, it's just odd, and take every day and appreciate it. Be grateful.
Yeah.
Maybe it's silly. I remember an old interview on Howard Stern, and he was talking to Sarah Silverman. And he asked her, like, why aren't you doing more movies? Why aren't you doing, like, you could be worth $100 million? And she just said, I'd much rather have a quality of life than quantity of life.
Good
And to
point.
do those things, that means I can't go for a coffee and just sit with my girlfriends and talk about nothing at 10 in the morning, in Soho district. So,
Yeah.
these are the things that,
You really got to
we
know
got to have
yourself.
productivity. Yeah.
You really
Sorry?
got to know yourself. You got to really know yourself to obviously know what your limits are in life. But if you can, man, like you said, it's a breakthrough of like what's important and what's not, right?
Well, we're getting old too. How old are you now?
Gonna be 47 in August. Where's time
Dude,
go?
I'm 50 in June, the big 50, June
I remember
20th.
my first radio job in Toronto. I think I was wearing like a $99 suit and thought I was the shit. And I was coming into the elevator and
Ah,
I saw you guys in the morning crew. And I think I was like 23, 24. And I was just like, oh my God, who are these guys? I'm in the same elevator.
oh,
But man, that's like half a lifetime ago.
those old days of feeling invincible, feeling like we knew
Right.
the world,
I
being a
know.
little too cocky, and
They're
the
fun
key
though.
is
They were fun.
yeah, oh, they're fun. You know what? And that's another thing. You got to have fun because you'll look back as you get older, and if you didn't do it when you're younger, healthier, more
I
energetic,
know.
and could get up after a bender, you'll probably regret not having some fun too. It's
Yeah.
I like this chat. We're not talking
This is
business.
good. This
We're
went
talking
from like
life.
a Bloomberg interview to like we are live on Oprah. Like this is like very nice, little bit two interviews into one. But most part is like I think people need to see this side. Is like you're grinding, you want to get the results that investors want to see. But what I'm trying to educate people on is that this stuff takes time. And when I look at the cannabis space right now, the big trend that's going on is all these companies are scaling back on the market shares, meaning like Cureleaf, big multi-state operator, announced their earnings yesterday, and they scaled back on 3 or 4 different states and actually beat consensus reports. They had a record month, a record quarter in the state of Arizona. It's all about profitability and gaining cash and being cash flow positive. That's at the forefront for cannabis. So to your point on what you've learned in cannabis, I think that's where you don't have to be here, there, and everywhere. It's about making smart, strategic decisions because at the end of the day, you've only got so much cash. You better make sure you return investment for your investors, right?
It's not the heydays where you could go and raise $100 million by telling them you're like creating some sort of facility that Health Canada might approve, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's we're talking about real business now, and we were a bit ahead of the curve a few years ago. I passed out on many deals, but the burn would have crushed us. We would have been if I didn't break a deal or two, we would have been broke today. So
Yeah.
I'm super proud of what I've accomplished. I'm very proud of what the board has given me confidence in doing. And I'm really grateful for our shareholders. I get a lot of calls from them. I do my best to you know, just say, hey, please, let's figure out alignment here. And if you got to sell, you got to sell, but always do due diligence. Again, long-term vision. Nothing's happened overnight in my world. And I'm confident that over time, Red Light will be in a great position. I really am. And as a proud shareholder and CEO and director, I'm going to put my best foot forward while making sure when I have a moment to relax my kids, I'm going to actually shut down business for once in a while too.
Well said. Thanks for the update. Let's keep in touch.
Yeah, man, I really do appreciate it. And congrats on all your success. I remember when you first started this, I said it last time I was on your show, and it's grown, and I know you got a lot of things going, and it's tougher when the companies don't have a lot of the money to pay for the extra promotion around their companies, because that's a big sense of your livelihood. But good, consistent content with great hosts, and you know, I love even the visuals of it. Like, it looks very professional. So keep kicking ass.
Appreciate it, brother. Let's keep in touch.
Cheers, my man.
All right. Hey everyone, thanks for watching, and if you want to learn more about the emerging industries that we cover, then leave a comment below and let us know who you want us to interview, the questions you want asked, and the information that you want to learn. We want to hear from you. As usual, click on that bell for all notifications to get the latest information, share this video with your network, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel, because we would not be here without you. Thanks for watching, everyone.